Welcome, Olu Elias.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. The first thing I'm going to pick on from one of the conversations we had, I know you said you have a passion for development and making a difference. Tell us a bit more about that passion that you have.
Okay. I've always had a passion for making a difference from when I was young. I went on to study economic development and then did a master's in African studies. I majored in the problems of development in Africa. The desire then was to work with an international organization of some sort, either the World Bank, the IMF, or any of the charities that are on the ground in a third world country. Somehow it never got to happen because soon after my master's I got married. And of course I started having children and the whole story changed. I went into local authority because I liked the idea of public service. And then from there I had to start to look for my niche and how could I fulfill my passion even though it was outside how I thought it would originally be. So I have involvement in quite a number of charities. But before we go to the charities, I have involvement with individuals as well. I believe in making a difference in the life of an individual. One person is transformed, one person goes on and transforms 10, 15, 100 others.
Very true.
So I fulfill my purpose that way.
So you mentor?
I do, very much so.
Young people, older women?
I have a vast age range I mentor. I mentor, how do I put this? On a one-to-one basis, I think I have 17 people I directly influence. I'm constantly in touch with, either phone, emails, and I find out what's going on in their life. The oldest, I would say I mentor directly, turned 40 last year. And the youngest I was speaking with just last week is just on 16. So it's a vast range.
Which is good, brilliant. When you were just talking a few minutes ago, you said your initial plan, you know, what you wanted to go into and in terms of career, but then you got married. How many children have you got, if you don't mind me asking?
I have two. I have two wonderful biological children, and then I have one adopted child.
Oh wow, you have an adopted child.
I do.
So what made you adopt a child?
Probably the same passion I have for making a difference. There was a need. Her mother had died during childbirth, and there was a need there, so my heart went out and I had to take her on. So
excellent. How old is the child now?
She's 7 months old now, so it's pretty fresh.
Oh wow, So when you say you adopt, is the child actually in your care, or?
The paperwork needs to be done to be brought into my care. So we're still in the process
of doing that.
But I have two biological children
of yours.
I don't know whether to call them children now because one's 24 and one's 21.
For me, that's the ability to be able to look beyond your own selfish needs and think of adopting a child 7 months old as it is, for me, speaks a lot about the kind of person you are. The reason why I said beyond our own selfishness, because at this age where I know your children are grown, so this is the time kind of like where most people are waiting for, when they're like so-called free, and then you can begin to explore, you know, what you want to explore. So to be able to take that decision to do that, can I just say I commend you for that?
Thank you. Well, I don't know, in a strange way I feel that's me. Everything I want to achieve now is way outside me. As an individual, there's nothing I really would say I want or I need that is about me anymore. I think my fulfillment is way outside me. I have no purpose, I have no desire, no goal that is intrinsically me or mine. So anything I want to do now would have to be outside me.
Whose are they then, if they're not?
They're not mine in the sense that they're not, I don't know, so-called selfish or self-centered.
Yeah.
Anything I want to achieve now would have to be about making someone else different or making someone else better. So in terms of, I don't know, the kind of things people would normally pursue, like desiring a larger house or a car or more income.
Things, yeah.
I don't have any such desire anymore. Or at least I'm getting to the stage where I don't have those desires anymore.
There's something about the ability to be able to get to that stage. And we'll talk about that. I want to believe it's some of the things you probably have gone through in life. So being married a young age, and I know you're divorced.
I am.
Okay. What happened? We don't need to go into details about what happened. And how then did you deal with your 2 children, because they were also young at that time? How did you manage all that? Where did you draw your daily strength from and resources to bring up 2 children?
I went through a divorce when I was 20. I'm trying to work this out now. When I was 29, I think it was.
Okay.
When I was 29. At that point in time, I had a son who was 3 years old and a daughter who was 1 year old. So from that perspective, it was a lot to have to cope with, people would say. But for some strange reason, there was just, I would say sufficient grace for me, more than sufficient grace for me. Next day, after he had chosen to move out, I came back home. His things weren't there. He made a call in the evening and said, I've decided I don't want to be married anymore. I didn't realize this was the demand of a marriage. I threw myself into work, certainly. I think I was working extremely long hours. I was fortunate to have...
So that was your own way of dealing with that situation then? Yeah.
I had always loved work,
Okay.
but I guess it gave me more reason to want to love work more.
Right.
I had always been passionate about achieving goals, whatever goals they were, as small as they were or as massive as they could be. And I threw myself into work more. Vacancies were coming up. I was moving up the ladder rapidly. Actually, I was moving much quicker than the people I had met in the department I was working with. I was fortunate also to have a family a close family support system.
Okay.
So my mom took my children in, not deliberately. They were supposed to have gone for a holiday. That lasted quite a while.
Okay.
So I think God just made things work that way.
Right. Okay.
Along the line as well, I think I did so many courses. I just threw myself into doing part-time courses. I did a number of courses in counseling. I did a City and Guilds teaching course. I did cake making. I was just going on courses. So I had pretty much filled up my time.
Where was God in all of this for you?
God was right at the center of everything. The evening I came home and the house was empty. I came back from work. I had picked up my daughter from her childminder and my son from the nursery. The house was empty.
Home, the house was empty.
The house was empty.
You didn't have any you didn't know that was going to happen. There wasn't
totally unexpected. I just went on my knees and I just said, God, I'm so thankful for how you've laid out my life, and I rededicate my life and everything I would love to achieve into your hands. Take charge.
And you didn't know where your husband was? You didn't know?
At that point in time, I didn't know, but he called in the evening and said, oh, are you back from work? Yes, I'm back from work. You would have noticed I've moved out. I said, yes, I've noticed. And he said, I've chosen not to be married anymore because I didn't realize what the commitments of a marriage were.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that. Did you have challenges in terms of custody for your children?
Yes, a few years down the line, we had a custody case. He had taken me to court. I don't really know whether he wanted custody of the children. I don't know whether he would have been able to cope. But it was one of the situations where God just stepped in again. I heard a knock on the door, opened the door, and someone served me the paperwork and said there were a number of orders, restriction orders over them, including orders not to be removed from the UK. So my mom was in the sitting room, my son, my daughter was in the sitting room, And you get to a stage where you don't want your parents panicking too much.
Yeah.
I wasn't too sure whether I was going to go in and tell my mom that, okay, this is what's going on, or whether I was going to go and sneak and call someone. I spoke to someone I knew who was a solicitor, and he said, okay, I don't specialize in family law. Look for someone who specializes in family law. I was so fortunate. The solicitors I found were fantastic. The specialist on my case obviously was a man, but he attached me with a woman. By the time we got to the court, the judge was a woman. I was just surrounded by several women who understood what I was going through. But that in itself wasn't sufficient to give me the victory I wanted. Justice is fair, and it wasn't just that they were women. God just helped us turn the case on its head. And every single thing he had brought to the table, the courts could put a hole through. So everything just went.
And then you got custody of
I got custody of them. It was pretty expensive, but it went well.
Can I ask emotionally, based on what you went through, where are you now? The reason why I ask that question is because at times, divorce, coming home, you know, empty house, custody of your children. Some people for years are still unable to get over that. And that's why I said emotionally, where are you on that? I don't know how to describe this. I'm in an extremely good place. It's a place I can't describe. I wouldn't want to change it for anything. Having said that, God might have something better for me along the line. I'm feeling fulfilled work-wise. I'm feeling fulfilled as far as my children are concerned. I'm feeling fulfilled church-wise. I'm feeling fulfilled in my circle of friendships. As I said to you earlier on, all the things I want to achieve from a personal perspective, I would say I've achieved. There's no personal goal I'm seeking to attain for myself. So I'm pretty content where I am. It's a wonderful place to be. I said if anybody turns up on my door, he would have to sweep me and God off my feet. So that's a good one. I like that.
I'm feeling fantastic.
Because you're so entwined with him and everything, cozy with God.
Excellent.
Your two children, I know one of them came out of the university with a first class. And, you know, for me, to the glory of God, that again reflects how He's been able to uphold you. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, very right. My son came out with a first class. He studied electrical and electronics engineering.
A proud mom, I can see.
Pretty proud. I'm feeling pretty chuffed. The journey to excellence, even for a young person, is a very long one. So it's what you put in from the onset. I remember once I received a call from his secondary school. The school secretary called and said, the head teacher wants to speak with you. She'll call you back soon. And I went quiet. She said, it's nothing to worry about. Soon after, maybe 10 minutes, maybe the longest 10 minutes of my life, because you're thinking, okay, what's this boy done now? The head teacher called and said, of course, the complimentaries, and then I'd like you to come into school. You have such an excellent son. I'd like you to start mentoring our parents on how to raise their children. And I'd want you to, if you have the time, to join the school governing body. I offered my services. When he was going to leave secondary school, she actually wrote a reference saying his Cambridge Oxford material. And this was by his year 8, 9? So excellence is something you nurture right from when they're young. Oftentimes when people go through a traumatic experience,
especially for them as children,
the children can suffer. And in most of what I have done, I've made sure I've put them at the forefront of everything I want to do. So we're constantly speaking, even when they're not at home. I'm checking in with them.
Relationship with them,
Absolutely.
Excellent.
And my daughter is doing her degree in criminology and social policy. She's due to finish in a few months' time. And I guess her brother has set a standard for her. So she's trying to push for a first class or a 2-1 as well.
Oh, that's good.
It's been good.
again, like you said, it's really what you deposit in them, isn't it, from an early age?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know from, at least I've met your son and I've spoken to him a few times, very humble young man. And you can see that spirit of, that's been injected in him, you know, the spirit of the love of God and passionate about the things of God. And I think, again, that's what I'm referencing, the fact that it's what you've deposited in him. In 2008, you made a decision, or, well, you made a decision to go back home as a result of some of your projects that you were doing back home. What happened after you made that decision?
Okay. Just before I had pulled out the children from school and I had put them in a boarding school in Nigeria, the idea was I was going to wrap up my activities in the UK and move back to Nigeria to start a number of projects. One of them was an orphanage.
Okay.
We were in the process of registering an orphanage then, which was pretty demanding. So many things take so long. And a school as well. Those were our goals.
You still have a school now, don't you? Back in India.
Let me say we. I won't say
okay.
We.
Okay.
Along the line, we sold everything we could and started to wrap up our affairs. Unfortunately, I was due to leave the UK finally on
So when
Friday.
You say you sold everything, property, you'd packed?
We had packed up everything.
Everything. Where were the things you had packed? Had you shipped them? Were they still
They were due to be shipped out of the UK on the Wednesday, and I was due to leave the UK on the Friday.
Okay.
I think the only thing I had left were some paperwork for my tax returns or whatever it was. And the things you'd want to give the charity shop. So everything had cleared completely.
Empty house.
The house was actually sold. So technically I shouldn't have even been inside anymore.
Right, okay.
So yes, everything had been sold. It was the Wednesday, due to leave on the Friday. Unfortunately, on that Wednesday night, everything got stolen.
Everything that you had packed ready to go?
Everything I had, because I remember walking the length and breadth of the house saying a pin of mine was not going to remain in the UK. Little did I know.
What you said?
Absolutely.
We need to be careful the things we say. It wasn't left, was it?
I said everything I had to go with me.
Including cars?
Everything I had to go with me.
Wow. It got stolen?
Completely.
So when you got there, what did you do? Or how did you even find out? Who told you? How did you hear about it?
Okay. I had gone, after we had finished packing, I remember there was one item I needed to pick up from someone's store that I had kept in someone's store. Okay. By the time I was driving back into the town, I saw a trailer that looked like my trailer. And I was thinking to myself, no, it can't be. No, it can be. No, is it? So
it was a trailer that you were taking in and everything
was inside the trailer.
Right.
There was a 44-foot trailer.
Wow.
Everything was in that trailer. And I looked, could it be the trailer? Could it not be the trailer? In the process of trying to do a U-turn, I lost them completely. Obviously, they were more familiar with the territory than mine. So I went to the entrance to the seaport. There was no sign of anything. I think I called the police and then headed for the police station. At that point in time, I think I was still in denial, but it was so obvious. I told the policeman that I really needed to use the toilet. So I quickly went and did a wee. I think on my way back, I passed out very briefly. But I quickly came to, because the shock was just way beyond what I could easily digest. So even in my unconscious state, I had to quickly come back to consciousness. They took all the statements, did what they had to do, and said they weren't going to let me go. At that point in time, I think they might even have called paramedics or something. But you know, you still have so much energy in you. When they had concluded that the trailer had been stolen, I said, okay.
They confirmed that.
They confirmed it had gone. I decided, okay, I was going to drive myself home. I drove myself home, which was maybe another 45 minutes back.
This kind of situation, some people would hear something like this and literally lose their sanity.
You could have complete. That's why I just want to thank God for the grace upon my life. I got home. This is the home that I had sold, and climbed the bed. There was one single bed there. I climbed the single bed and I slept. I think it was just God's way of shielding me from the mental effects I could have gone through. So I slept early hours of the morning. It was like God knocked me out completely. I woke up and I had to start to make some phone calls. At that point in time, it had started to sink because I was supposed to travel the next day. Yes. So here I was with the little bag in the single room, the single bed, and myself.
That's all you had.
That's all I was left with.
Out of all this, you losing everything really. So we're talking of things like personal things. You know, there's some monetary things where you think, okay, yes, maybe I can buy a car back, I can buy a house back, I can buy that. But there's some things you can't buy back, like pictures, memories, you know. They're just some little significant things. Out of this, there was one thing you were very particular about. Okay. And you asked God for.
It was a very interesting one. After I had gone through the experience and had started to come back to my senses, so to speak, the reality had started to sink in. I said to God, I had a specific bag inside that trailer. And whilst I was not happy, I was willing to let go of everything else. There was one bag there that I was not going to let go of. And it was so interesting. I had a member of the church come to me. I think this was the second day. And we had started to roam around all over Essex.
Just let go like that, can you? Yeah.
All over Essex. We didn't find anything. I think it was another 2 days had passed. Another friend had come to spend time with me and said, okay, let's go and see if we can find anything anyway. Or we can get a tip-off of where the trailer was, where it was offloaded, if you can negotiate anything, whatever we can get out. Somewhere right in the middle of Essex, even today, if you ask me where, I couldn't tell you. We were rummaging. Would come out of the car, drive round, go back into the car. I saw one item that I knew was mine. And that led me to look behind the bush. By this time,
this was just in the middle of
nowhere. And lo and behold, right behind that bush was that black bag.
The black bag you had said
the black bag I was looking for. It was a hold-all bag, and I said to the person I was with, "No, I can't believe this." I lifted up. The bag was already covered. It was winter. The bag was covered with dew. It was wet. All the contents were wet. I picked up the bag, and I said, "That's the bag I'm looking for." We opened the bag, and the contents were there. Actually, the bag had been partially opened. I think they realized there was nothing of value to them, so they had flung the bag over the hedge.
To me, that says God can find a pin in a
haystack.
Yes. Because what are the chances of you ever seeing that back and getting that back? And I also remember you were saying that some of your properties you were finding in markets, you know, all over Essex, and, you know.
It was interesting. The more we searched, the more we started to find that the goods had spread all over the place. I think at one point in time we found a marketplace where my things were being sold. They even still had my name tag on it. The address label for delivery and everything was there.
Some of your goods.
We got the police involved. They arrested some people. Then they called. They said they had mistakenly released the things to them again. So
that didn't sound properly. Okay. So what was next for you after this? How then did you pick up yourself and then move on after this to get to where you are? What you've just said to us, how content, how you're fulfilled in, and just rebuild all that. This is not, because it's not just rebuilding. It's not so much about the physical things that you've lost. There's also you know, for you also, that spiritual connection that, you know, there would have been a lot of things going around. I'm sure you would have asked questions, why me, and things like that.
I don't think the question of why me came up so much in this case. Believe me, there are some things you go through that the why me question can't even come. Yeah, the why me question sometimes can be when it's marginal and you can reason. You get to a stage where there's nothing to be reasoned again, and then you just need to understand that God is in it. There's some scriptures you would hold on to. It's like, I'm thinking of a scripture I can share with you, maybe something like Psalm 91, verse 14, that tells you that whilst you're in trouble, he'll deliver you, he'll help you, he'll be your strength. There's a stage you get to in life where you don't ask the why me questions, you just understand that God is in the middle of it, and you just accept his will. Once you are able to accept his will, you come to terms with your experiences much quicker. I'm fortunate that I am well entrenched in church, and I hope I have an understanding of how God works. God is faithful enough to restore. He owns all things. I think the first thing for me was to address the issue of my separation with my children. That for me was so crucial.
Right.
I gave myself some time. Of course, the first thing we did was they were in boarding school.
Okay.
I think my sisters had to get in touch with them and tell them, okay, mommy was due to come on Friday. We are sorry she can't come on Friday.
Back in Nigeria.
But just give her time, she'll call you. And as soon as I was fit enough, I think by the second day, I called them, and I didn't want to start narrating too much to them. But I did tell them what had happened, but everything would be fine. So in terms of recovering emotionally, it can be a very gradual process. As usual, I'm inclined to throw myself into things. So I throw myself into things. I give free public speaking engagements. I go on courses. Actually, even presently, I have a number of courses I do for nothing, even in my public library. So whether it's personal development, form filling, help with your CV, cake making. So gradually I got to a stage where I could start to give more of myself to people. And the more I gave of myself to others, the less of a need I found I had.
Excellent, right. So, would I be right in using the word you were restored?
I wish there was a word I could use that's even more significant than restored.
What, more than restored?
Actually, it depends on how you see restoration. Oftentimes when you talk about restoration, people think, okay, what you lost, you've got back. For me, restoration is much more than that. When I talk about restoration, I take it to mean, or interpret it to mean, God bringing you back to a position where you should have been. Now, where I was... So
that's more than...
Where I was is only where I was. Where I should have been, usually for most people, is more than where they are. Nobody gets a state of excellence at any point in time. So I would say, yes, I was restored. I was restored in the sense that much more than I could desire, I have found. So maybe before I was chasing after things, now I don't chase after things. I chase after making a difference in the life of people.
Excellent. And things chase after you. Because I know that you're in demand for people to come and speak to you, to come and speak to them also. Excellent. And I know you're also into the property market. You have charities, like you said, that you actually support. And you mentioned about a school back home. I just wanted to touch on that, what you do as we round up. Okay. There are several things I do personally. Most of all the things I do, actually I do on a charitable basis or voluntary basis. So whether it's the mentoring, whether it's the public speaking, whether it's the training sessions and workshops I do in my local library or wherever I'm invited, I do them absolutely free. There are a number of charities too I'm actively involved in. Most of the charities I'm involved in are either Christian charities or something to do with children. We have a number of invites presently. Madagascar is waiting for us. They've invited us to start a school, a mission school.
I did share with you that I seem to have developed a passion for India as well.
Yeah, that was very
So
interesting.
I'm hoping that this year I'm going to be able to touch India and make a difference.
And those are the 6 million children there?
There's 60 million children
that are outcasts.
That are cast. They call them the untouchables. So I hope I can get to touch the untouchables and make a difference in their life. As far as Nigeria is concerned, we have the orphanage, and we're hoping that we can move the school to another level.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So much.
It's been a pleasure.
Olu Elliott, and you've just said something about touching the untouchable. And I pray that, somewhere in our walk in life, we'll be able to do that. Like I was sharing to someone, we're all here for a reason. It's important we know why we're here, and we'll fulfill that purpose before we leave.
Absolutely.
So that we have a fulfilled life.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just share one thing with you. Oftentimes people talk about experiences they might have gone through, and I call it losing your axe head. Oftentimes in life, there are things that would steal your axe head. It's your responsibility to seek out your axe head, find it, and cut as many massive trees as you can.
Oh, wow.
So
I couldn't have put that better. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having you. Thank you for coming on our show again.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Fantastic being here.